Hit you with another one of them old phenomenal shits.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Undrlvld. My name is Chris. I appreciate you all being here and for the continued support. Just want to quickly remind everyone that our fourth giveaway, the 500 subscriber giveaway, is going on right now. So if you check the description down below or that pinned comment, you'll find a link to Gleam. You go to Gleam, you do the stuff, you get the entries, and in like 2.5 weeks or whatever, we'll give one of you lucky people Steam keys for Civilization, Outward, and Warhammer Vermintide 2. Had to think about that last one. Also, the Sky Raiders Vabrax video should be coming back next week, as well as in the near future, the video wrapping up Nardor, the Withering Worm, the first thing I've ever made in Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, I'm gonna be wrapping that up. I know it's supposed to have multiple videos, but I kind of want to wrap it up and take the lessons that I learned and apply it to whatever I make next. Thank you all for your patience on all of that. My father is visiting out of town and he's only got a couple of days left, so I had to lighten the workload a little bit so I could make sure I could spend time with him as well. So with that being said, let's get into this episode of Tal'Dorei Reborn. So in today's episode, I'm going to be going over some great, well, what I think is great stuff. But I must warn everyone that this will contain spoilers for the latest episode of Critical Role Campaign 3. So if you haven't seen it, bookmark the video after you like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. I see, I'm trying to get a little more creative. But yeah, pause the video, go watch Critical Role, the latest episode, and then come on back afterwards. Or if you don't care about spoilers, then just keep watching. I don't spoil the whole episode, I just spoil a few things. So, some interesting details about Chetney was revealed during this episode, and it got me thinking about how this could impact the campaign moving forward. And then it got me thinking about how this could impact Laudna specifically. So I'll play a few extremely short clips from the latest episode of Critical Role. Please don't ban me, Critical Role people. And then we'll talk about it.
As I walk, I look up at him and I say, "Boy, I bet you think you're real scary. You think Gurge has a gift." Wait till you get a load of me. My shoulder pops out, my back cracks.
He's a tiny werewolf! He's a terrier!
Do it! Yes!
Wow.
Oh my God!
Blood hunter!
Wow.
Look at him!
Yes.
Undrlvld.
Boy.
Look at
You see,
Wow.
you see these claws start to crawl out of his fingers, and as they do, the blood drips out of them, and fire comes off of them, and he goes, "I lied," and swipes right into Ira.
There's a bunch of warriors who use chemocraft, a sort of blood-based arcana that you can harness your own life essence to smite your enemies, if you will. One sect of these hunters was known as the Gorgini. Apparently they've learned to harness this curse that I acquired in Wildmount, so I was told to go seek them out before I went absolutely wild and started murdering everyone around me as a crazed wolfman. Came down here, found and ran with them for a few years. Learned to harness this beast.
Essentially, if I don't control it, or if I show an ability to hurt others, then I think they'll come for me.
Who's they?
Well, those hunters,
Those hunters.
the Claret Order, they kind of keep a tight lid on that shit. If it is a curse or a disease, they don't want it running rampant.
So what you wanted from Gurge was to teach you the ways of controlling it more?
You
Oh, I
to
wanna-
this group?
Yeah.
The goo.
Gorgine.
Gorgine.
So, we have learned that not only is Chetney a blood hunter, but a subclass is the Order of the Lycan. Now, as I mentioned in my previous Tal'Dorei Reborn video, the TLDR of the Claret Orders is that they were started by Trent Orman, and he was gifted knowledge of hemocraft by the Matron of Ravens, also known as the Raven Queen. The birth of the Claret Order also marks the origins of the first blood clerics, blood mages, and blood hunters, like Chetney. And they live to help defend the world from darkness and most likely to preserve the balance, as does the Matron of Ravens. That balance being the balance of life and death. You know how they hate like undead things and whatnot. So why does this matter? As we saw in the clips, Chetney was receiving some help from another Lycan named Gurge. Now, this Gurge was a part of the Claret Order before leaving of his own accord. Now he is setting Chetney down the path to find the Claret Orders. I think it's like a branch known as the Gorgony. Sorry if I butchered that name, but you all know how English is for me. Now, how does this impact Laudna? Well, for one, she's as we know, she's like a variant human, specifically, and who is a undead warlock, and has the Hollow One supernatural gift. Basically, she's an undead. Or at least close to one. And that doesn't exactly fly with the Claret Order, as, you know, they maintain the balance, just like the Raven Queen does. But that alone isn't the only issue. As we know, Laudna also has Delilah Briarwood inside of her, or something. Delilah is from Campaign 1 of Critical Role, for the very few people that probably don't know that, and she was a servant of the Whispered One, also known as Vecna. The Whispered One is a lich who, in Critical Role about 25 years ago, tried to use his cult to ascend to godhood, the same way the Matron of Ravens did. He did succeed, but was quickly defeated and banished behind the Divine Gate by Vox Machina. So not only is Vecna not destroyed, but his cult, the Remnants, are also still around. Now we know they're spreading into positions of power all over Tal'Dorei. Thanks to Tal'Dorei Reborn, we know that. Political institutions, churches, arcane organizations, criminal outfits, and not to mention the League of Miracles. Not only in hopes of granting the Whispered One more power, but also to await for a new dark prophet to lead them. Now, there isn't really anything of value to this video in the text for the League of Miracles, but just think of them as greedy magic mercenaries also seeking political power. That about sums them up. There's plenty to read in the Remnants flavor text, but I'll leave the rest of that to you guys. However, one person of interest in the Remnants did reveal something. Now, I'm probably going to butcher this name again. Ixratu Kar, a tiefling vampire, member of the Remnants leadership known as the Devouring Blood. Now, she is a piece of work. Killed and consumed hundreds and was prisoned for a time, but this next part is what interested me the most. During her imprisonment, Ixratu was plagued by shadowy visions of a woman beckoning to her from beyond the bars. A very simple sentence, and this might be tinfoil hat time, but what if that was Delilah Briarwood giving her those visions? So hear me out. Clearly, Delilah isn't always in Laudna's head. With the amount of time Whitestone or members of Vox Machina was mentioned, she hasn't said one thing. It's possible she's out supporting members of the Remnants. So that poses the question, if Delilah is helping the Remnants, what exactly is she doing with Laudna? Why is she giving her power? These are all amazing questions I don't have the answers to, but certainly things we all have to keep an eye out for the more she interacts with Laudna. I would say my main theory is, because, like, Delilah didn't necessarily, like, well, she did die in Whitestone, but I mean, she was brought back. So maybe it's like a Horcrux thing, and a part of Delilah is in Laudna. And I think eventually, when Laudna is strong enough, she's gonna try to take over Laudna, and hence, come back through Laudna. So, bringing this all back around, if the group via Chetney starts to interact with the Claret Orders, how are they going to react to not only Laudna, but the fact that she has ties with Delilah Briarwood, which by now, anyone who's looked into it probably knows that she was in cahoots with the Whispered One. Judging by what Gurge was saying, they don't seem like the type to really screw around. Eventually, I can see Delilah, like I said, taking her over, or perhaps using Laudna as an unknowing spy for the Remnants, maybe even trying to recruit her, if not, control or take over her, and then passing what she learns to Ixratu Kar, who's already training assassins. Like, that's her thing, she's an assassin. So she would probably use Laudna as like a spy or take her over or whatever, and then transfer that information to her assassin. Now, 100%, I think Ixratu Kar is going to be involved with Campaign 3 somehow. Out of all the factions in Tal'Dorei Reborns, and out of all the factions and societies that are mentioned in it, which we are provided for each of them a list of important figures, but she's the only one with an image to go with the name. And I believe she's the only one, off the top of my head, with a vestige of divergence known as the Condemner. Chetney and his ties to the Cleric Orders, Laudna with Delilah Briarwood, and with Delilah obviously comes, the Whispered One and the Remnants. I don't know what Matt's planning, but I'm getting pretty excited to see where all of this goes. I'll be sure to make an update video to this topic as we learn new stuff, and if I see anything else of interest in Tal'Dorei Reborn. But with that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. Tried to make it a little bit shorter than the last one, but I mean, in that last one, when I went over the Hemocraft subclasses, that was a lot of stuff to go over, so I was surprised it was only about like 20 minutes. But yeah, what do you guys think about all of this? I like theory crafting stuff, and I'm really enjoying going through the Tal'Dorei Reborn book and trying to like theory craft and pin pieces together and see, what hints are in that book that could impact the campaign. But that's going to wrap up this episode. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for the support. If you have any suggestions on what you'd like to see from the book, let me know. If you want to see subclass, items, description of Whitestone or whatever, like anything you want to see, just let me know. I'll try my best to get it done. Or if you want like a stream and you guys can ask me questions and I'll go through it, we can do that too. It's been a lot of fun talking with all of you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.